Gentlemen, you beautiful people here in Toronto, Canada, and all you wonderful fans from around the world, welcome to Championship Sunday here at the WCS Premier League Season 2 Finals. As you can see, it all comes down to this. This trophy right here is all that matters today. 8 players have been selected in the top 16 now to battle through the best of 5 quarterfinals, the semifinals, and then the last 2 players remaining will fight one last time to see who gets to be called the champion of Season 2. I've never been more excited in my life for a full day of StarCraft. Are you guys all ready? And all of you at home, especially Europe, you should be up watching right now. Perfect time for you guys to witness if for the first time in 2 years we can have a foreigner, a European perhaps, go all the way to the finals and to see if Bolt gets another chance at that championship title. But before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, we have 8 players who have battled through 2 tough days to get to this moment. So I introduce to you the top 8 of Season 2. All right, with the best 8 players in this season standing here on this stage for the Premier League Season Finals. What time is it? I think it's time to start StarCraft Sunday!
Some of the very best minds in StarCraft II stand on this stage today to compete for a chance to be the champion of the Season 2 Premier League. Joining me still here from the pre-game into the main show is In Control and Pig. The first game that we're going to be going on to on this main stage, Bunny versus StarDust. And this is a massive game, not just for each of them, but for everyone watching from around the world for many different reasons. StarDust is now back after being AFK from Season 1. He's now back in the Premier League and is a former champion of 2014, but of course Bunny on the other side of things is a player very similar to Snoot last year and to Naniwa in the previous year before that, is looking to play at the global finals and is very close to doing so, Jeff.
And he would be the only foreigner that's kind of within striking distance right now. Of course, this is before 2,000 points are awarded, but he's carrying that torch, and stands before him is a guy who last night shook his head. They're like, you want to play Bunny? He's like, no.
Yeah.
He just shook his head, and I wouldn't want to either. Bunny came out firing on all salvos yesterday and went 4-0, I believe. No, 4-1. He lost one game to Gunga Panda.
Right.
But looked amazing. Played really, really well. And StarDust has been a little bit shaky. That's what a lot of people are talking about. There was a period of time where he was super ultimate dominant and very good, and now he's a little bit shaky. But he's the wild card. He's also a bit of a hype killer. I've been at a few events where it's like the other guy, they're like, oh, wow, it's StarDust. This is a totally beatable guy. And then StarDust, he says, no, actually, no. I'm the guy you should have eyes on. So it's going to be a great match.
As much as StarDust has taken a break over the last couple of months, now has rejoined us, he's also regaining strength game by game, day by day, and is becoming the former player that he used to be. He's in the top 8. He's looking at a chance to play in the semi-finals and even a long shot towards the title. I don't think too many people think he's going to win. There definitely are some, but he has within him the chance to be able to do this, and definitely the strength to as well.
You know, it's so hard to pigeonhole StarDust as a player because he's someone who, he's got that ability to beat anyone. Even when he's not picked as the tournament favorite, you can say this guy is the favorite, but actually he could lose to StarDust because StarDust doesn't play within the set rigid style of the meta. He does what he feels is the best way to play. If he feels he's a little bit weaker than someone or maybe disadvantaged, it just means he's going to play even more to his strengths and his opponent's weaknesses. StarDust is a really big threat for Bunny here.
And StarDust as a Protoss player is you know, looking at Bonnie's side of things, he said that I don't really want to play against a Protoss player, but he didn't list StarDust as a danger. He listed Lilbo over StarDust was the player he wanted to avoid. That comes into play, obviously.
Well, of course, Lilbo and Bunny have a bit of recent history with Lilbo actually not dropping a map to him the last two times they played. And I think we've got very different stylistic styles there. And if you look back at Bunny's match history, he's just been looking so strong recently. He's just really been powering up in that Terran versus Protoss matchup, getting better and better results as he progresses. So I think he's very confident going into this.
Jeff, just to go to a different point here, over the years, right, there's been players who have had the chance, and everyone's like, if he wins this, he could maybe go to the global finals. This is that moment again, and we've had so many players fail at this very moment, because right now everyone's like, Bunny wins this. If he wins, he's in top 16. He can do well next season. If he goes to a DreamHack here and there, he's in. Is this going to put so much pressure on him that we will see another failure, because we have so many times?
It's hard to say. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to Bunny's execution on that level. He had his back up against the wall yesterday. It was an elimination match, and that would be a lot more embarrassing, round of 16 for him, I feel. Much more winnable matches for him, and yet he was able to overcome that. And let's not forget, too, it is Season 2. He is 300 points outside of the top 16 right now, so I don't think a loss here. It's like, well, Bunny, it's been a great StarCraft II career. You know, where are you going to flip some burgers? I don't think it's quite like that, but getting those points, like we talked about earlier, having it in your head that you're like, okay, I'm in, and now I can just build upon that, that's a different mindset. And we heard that mindset from another pro gamer earlier who said, well, I need to go to all the tournaments now. If I don't get the points here, I got to go everywhere. That's going to cost money and time and stress. It's amazing.
Well, StarDust, a former champion now, played at BlizzCon in 2014. He had a great year, didn't do the best at the global finals, but he had the chance to be top 16, which isn't easy to do. And coming into today, he's not just outside top 16. He's not ranked 20. He's much deeper down in the ranks because he's missed Season 1. And for as much as you say that Bunny, he can slip up maybe here and still recover to still have a chance, a slip up for, you know, StarDust here could cost him a position at the global finals, which he, of course, that's his goal. That's why he's moved to America. That's why he has a visa to play in the WCS. If you're playing in the WCS, why shouldn't you, and obviously, be aiming at the global finals pick?
You know, if you've moved over here like that, you've got your sights set on BlizzCon. It's every pro gamer's dream. Yeah. If you're a StarCraft professional gamer, you want to compete at BlizzCon. It is the pinnacle. And I'm sure StarDust, even if he doesn't make it this year, he could have a great couple of tournaments. He could really do well in WCS, but that's not what his focus is. He's been to BlizzCon before. He's been a champion of WCS before. He wants to get there, and that's got to add some stress on his shoulders. It does have to make him feel like he's got to do whatever it takes to win here.
That's a huge point. That's the whole reason he moved over, and Pig has done that before, and Patreus has done that. I mean, like, a lot of these pro gamers are moving away from their home country for WCS. So, I mean, that's the biggest point I think we could make here, is just that he missed Season 1, not because he was, like, vacationing in China. It's because he was going through the visa process to transplant himself to a country where he felt he had a better chance to qualify for BlizzCon. Here he is, and if he doesn't do it, it's not an all-in necessarily, but it's darn close.
Well, let's take a closer look at StarDust now. And he's got great stats overall in the WCS because of his success over the last couple of years. This season isn't too much, but coming in as a ranked player here, this means everything for him. I mean, it means everything for every single player, especially when we look at StarCraft II. The way the scene operates today, WCS is everything. This is it. This is the tournament you want to play in. And here is StarDust. Comes in at rank 44. Not the highest of ranks. Of course, when you look back to being top 16, he's got a long way to go. Slow start to the year, but he has done well. 5 wins and 1 loss throughout this season. What is it that he has to... What is his key strength? Let's go that way, Pig. What is his key strength that is going to be able to allow him to beat Bunny today?
StarDust's strength, I feel, has always been his understanding of the game and, on a very deep level, how other players approach the game. He's always been a player where if he understands his opponent, he knows how to adjust and change. He is one of the most fluid players who always seeks to change the shape of his play to his opponent. He doesn't come in it with the most concrete of plans. He comes in with a good range and a good ability to adapt. So I think StarDust's focus here is very much trying to understand Bunny, and we've got that longer format. We've got that best of 5, so he is going to have a few games to learn and adjust.
StarDust StarDust. Rip this guy in half, apparently. Well, here is Liquid Bunny, of course. We've talked a lot about him already. This guy, so very close. Rank 19, a win here puts him rank 16. Was top 4 of Season 1, which really buffed up his stats and buffed up his rank coming into Season 2. But is he going to be tricked by StarDust? That's the big question here, Jeff, because we know that Bunny's a great player, very solid, but as Pig has said, StarDust is a trickster.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think the name of the game for him is going to be it's a funny dichotomy because it's like, don't chase ghosts. Don't be like, missile turrets every game, 3 bunkers, oh my god, he's all enemy, but also maybe. Yeah, you got to kind of scout for that kind of stuff. You need to have your timely scans. You need to get the information with that Reaper. You need to follow it up with drops because the drops will give you that information. And as long as he keeps tabs on StarDust, I feel like Bunny's going to get this.
Once again, going to Coda, pretty much almost every single series has started here on Coda. It's a nice, comfortable beginning map here, Pig.
Yes, TvP on Coda. It's quite a balanced map, a very nice layout of your bases. One of the big things we do want to watch for, as always in the Terran vs Protoss matchup, is the drop play from Terran, where the onus is on them to limit the Protoss expanding and try to find ways in. The important area is going to be if the Terran can trick the Protoss with positioning. If he can clear up some of that vision out front, the middle, below the main base, clear up those observers there, it opens up avenues to drop in the main as well as to flank around to the third base. And StarDust's job, on the other hand, is trying to anticipate that, trying to get the vision out there and be prepared.
Okay, so one last question before we go over. A really quick one now because the game is ready. How do you deal with a trickster like StarDust as a Terran? Is it scouting heavy? What is it?
It's going to be that harass style that Bunny is so known for and getting the information from that harass.
All right, thank you very much, guys. It's time to jump in to the first quarterfinal of the day. Can Liquid Bunny get to the semifinals again, or is StarDust gonna shoot him out of the sky?
Thank you very much, Sean, Jeff, and Pig. That's right, we are ready to get into our first round of 8 match. I'm so excited for this, Roddy. This is gonna be great. Terran versus Protoss. We each got a little bit going here. Big fans of Bunny. I've had the pleasure of getting wrecked by StarDust recently myself.
One of the only Terrans that he recently beat, Nate, but still a very formidable one in that case. I'm really excited for this quarterfinals as well. We're already live, so let's just go ahead and hop into Coda, which is going to be the first map of this awesome best of 5.
That's right, as you can see, we are loaded in. We're taking a look at our first player in the top left, the blue Terran from Team Liquid. He's Bunny!
And on the right bottom side of Coda, we are looking at the base of our red Protoss player. It is StarDust.
Now, Bunny, very solid in his Terran versus Protoss performance. Someone who a lot of people, you look at and you say this is a very doable matchup for him, especially when you consider the results that usually come out of these non-Korean versus Korean games. StarDust, the guys on the desk we're talking about, adjusting the styles. Roddy, he opened with an 11 supply gateway. He's going for a bit of a faster possible tech or aggression.
Yeah, it could also be a proxy or some sorts, because we saw actually Kung Fu Panda in one of the previous games. He opened up with an early gateway as well, sent one of his first probes, I think, across the map, and after that just chronoboosted out a Zealot, went for that Zealot Stalker Mothership Core, but Bunny just picked up on it immediately, dropped the bunker on the high ground, took 0 damage, and from that point on, as a Terran, you're already in a lovely position. It's like, okay, cool, Protoss is not opening up economically. I'm not going to be stubborn. I'm not going to drop everything on the low ground and not have a bunker ready. Bunny picks up on things very quickly, and that's one thing I really picked up on from his series yesterday, Kung Fu Panda. He sees so little, but with that he sees so much because he understands exactly. Nexus is 40 seconds later, I know what's going on. I don't see this, I know what's going on, I know what I need. It's like, well, I don't see anything, that's already wrong, and he just makes a lot of correct calls without having all the tools available or without seeing everything, and that makes him a very, very strong Terran player.
Yeah, and it really shows. Bunny goes into this series, he has to be feeling confident. He's very strong in this matchup. StarDust has not been posting big results against Terrans, dropping several series over the last few months, including even the qualifiers to qualify for Season 2 of Premier League against North American Terran players that haven't been posting results themselves. So this is a scenario where Bunny just needs to keep his eyes open and not get tricked.
I love this already by StarDust, knowing that if the probe is in a very obvious position, there is a good chance, because he opened up with that very quick Mothership Core, that the probe would get picked off before it could drop that Nexus. So he tucked it away behind that mineral line, and then as soon as he had enough minerals, he dropped it immediately. This mothership core is going to get a great scout off, Nate. It also forces Bunny to open up a little bit more defensively than I think he normally would like to. There's a good chance this mothership core can get an SCV tail, maybe even 2. Is there a repair? No repair.
Yeah, well,
2 kills. That's great, man.
2 Marines pop out, and you actually cannot defeat a mothership core with just 2 Marines, so he has to wait for the next wave to come out. This is StarDust making a slight adjustment to get this really fast mothership core. It buys him information, more importantly, of course, a little bit of damage too.
I mean, the 2 SCV kills, that's already very great, but what I personally love even more as a Protoss player is knowing that the factory is going to be the follow-up, because that allows you to maybe even get a very early forge if you want to play like that, or at the least you will always have observers ready in time. Well, every now and then Terran players will throw out a 3-Rex, and the 3-Rex, you have to deal with it a little bit different. Nice probes around as well. Man, StarDust opening up very strong so far.
Yeah, this is a really important moment in the game as we're building up towards that Widow Mine drop that Bunny will inevitably be going for. The mothership core comes in. He's confirming again, okay, I know what you're up to. Bunny likes to play this style. He's used it a lot in the majority of the Terran vs. Protoss games he's played this year. And Bunny, by losing that Reaper, he loses his tool to gather information before he goes in for that drop. That drop that will determine whether he goes into the mid game ahead or behind.
It is quite crazy when you look at this series on paper. It's been a long time that we look at a quarterfinals of a Premier League tournament where we say, I think the foreign Terran is the favorite over the Korean Protoss. But for a lot of people, Bunny is the favorite, and that's not for no reason, because he has been extremely solid. I think it's safe to say more solid than StarDust has been over the previous 4 or 5 months. But you can never underestimate a player that has won a DreamHack in the past, has won a WCS Premier League season as well. Let's not forget about that, season 2 of 2014. And StarDust is a player that will surprise you. Don't think, you can never think, or he's not ready for this, or you can never count him out, because he will always have something crazy up his sleeves. And so far, I love the way he's opening up on Coda. Everything is going his way, I feel.
Yeah, Bunny's making his follow-up, he's getting his extra barracks, but StarDust has prepared. He has his robotics facility, he has detection that can handle the Widow Mines. What he needs to do is keep his army in position and prevent them from burrowing. Prevent him, basically just don't slip up and make sure that if those mines get a chance to burrow, you can pull away.
Even the observer spotting these Marines makes his life a little bit easier. He's going to drop Photon Overcharge immediately. A couple of Marines will make their way into the main base, but 4 Stalkers on the high ground. I don't think StarDust is going to lose a single unit over here. The medevac is coming in, but okay, that's actually going to solve. Well, that's the first Stalker kill. Now Photon Overcharge still active in the natural, but there's double Photon Overcharge because of the... Oh my God!
Goodness, Bunny using the Marines as a distraction by pushing that ramp position takes a monstrous amount of damage against StarDust. And I gotta say, man, that's as a Terran player myself, that you're more than happy with that.
That is crazy, because he even had double Photon Overcharge because he had that super early mothership core.
And look, now StarDust recognizes this position not ideal in this scenario. He's lost a lot of workers, and in this position, going for a Dark Shrine, now it's basically just building up to the point where he rushes for DTs. Can Bunny recognize what's coming and prepare accordingly?
I mean, that's definitely going to get spotted, man. We know that Bunny is not going to stop for another 2 minutes, because of course with this build, Stim is kind of late. So you want to keep the aggression on, you want to keep Protoss away from your side of the map. And these Marines, they will already spot the Dark Shrine, Nate.
Yeah, so Bunny immediately becomes aware of this. Only one glance, it'll be very clear. He gets into the main base at the same time. We talked about that mothership core burning 2 Photon Overcharges, so cannot use it now with no energy available. Bunny just gets to bounce between these bases and just keep pressure, and that also forces StarDust to stay at home, not mine. And really, realistically, what are you going to do if your Dark Shrine was spotted? All Bunny has to do is throw up a missile turret at the front of his base.
I mean, this is actually a disaster for StarDust. It started off so well for him, but I think what he could have handled a lot better. This Pioneer is going to get spotted as well. Bunny is suddenly all over this place. I mean, StarDust definitely drew first blood, but since then it's been all Bunny. That one mine, of course, completely changing the dynamic of this game. I really feel the way that StarDust saw those Marines march across the map, it would have been much better to get your Stalkers out and get a couple of hits off on those Marines before they show up in your natural, and just protect your main base with Photon Overcharge rather than the other way around. I think that would have gone so much better for him.
Yeah, pulling back and just trying to hold one base can oftentimes be a little bit easier with the spread of units that you have. The first Dark Templar is going to arrive. The turret wasn't actually at the front of the walls, so he manages to slip in, but actually as soon as he gets into range of the SCVs, then that turret should reveal, so it becomes a little bit trickier for StarDust to actually make this work. War Prism is going to come in, and he's going to try to hit basically 2 points at once, and this is where he really needs to make something happen. This is a very important moment in this game for StarDust.
Yeah, but if I was Bunny right now, I would not do anything crazy, Nate. I'd just sit back. You know that this is going to come, so just deal with these Dark Templars for a minute or so. Let it go from here. You're going to lose a couple of units, but for Protoss, this is a pretty big investment. StarDust needs to do way more than pick off 1 or 2 SCVs here and there.
Yeah, he really needs to cause some serious damage. If you look at the follow-up, Bunny, everything that he needs to take a regular game against Protoss, Stim, Medivacs, moving into the upgrades, he's got it all. And at this point, he's getting ready to bring the aggression to StarDust. Well, StarDust is still playing catch-up on tech. He doesn't even have his first Colossus out yet.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny can just drop these units. There are 5 Stalkers, but that's not enough, man. As soon as these bio units unload, the Marauder has so much damage output against these Stalkers. Photon Overcharge focusing the Medivac, that's well done. But these Stalkers, man, they can't escape. The Blink is not ready yet.
He doesn't even have Blink. There's no way to retreat. Defensive Dark Templar get worked in, but there's the scan from Bunny, picking up the majority of the defenses, and he says, okay, I don't have to go into the main base. Let's just run to the natural now. All of these probes completely exposed with nothing to defend. Another scan to pick up the Dark Templar that are being warped into defend, and Bunny taking a very confident start to this best of 5. Colossus is going to pop out. He's going to pull back, but Bunny has a phenomenal stance in this game as it is.
I mean, he was dealing with the Warp Prism during all this. I took a look at the main base of StarDust. Oh, that's a really good pickup there by StarDust, saving the Dark Templar that even burned the scan. But there's already 3 orbital commands. Bunny can scan for days. He's even on workers. That's just a great scenario for Terran. And StarDust, well, all he can do right now is just pray, sit back on 2 bases, and hope that he can get a Colossus number out. That's scary enough that, you know, Bunny has to be very careful about how he wants to engage this. But so far, this is a Protoss army of nothing, Nate.
I mean, Bunny confidently steps forward, pushing through that Colossus, picking off the Stalkers, and now moving into the natural once again. GG, Bunny will take game number 1 in this best of 5.
And I mean, this is actually a great game for Bunny to win, not just because picking the first game in the best of 5 is always important. You know, you dictate the pace of the series from this point on. But the first 2-3 minutes in this game, things were going very well for StarDust. You get 2 SCV kills early on, you get a great scout off. It really felt that he was the one that was in control of the game. And I really think he mishandled the first push. He saw the Marines march across the map, and I feel if you have Stalkers, he had 4 Stalkers. That is so awesome against unupgraded Marines. You can already meet those Marines in the middle of the map. You get a couple of free shots off. Of course, you always have to worry about that medevac, but it's much better to deal with those Marines in the middle of the map, so by the time they show up in your natural, well, there maybe only 2 or 3 are still alive. It's very easy to take care of it. And then the medevac flies in, 2 mines, 2 Marines. Well, Photon Overcharge, you pull the workers for a split second, and everything is going to be okay. But this one mine shot, the one Widow mine on the north side of this Nexus, I mean, that was just cash money.
Yeah, and really it just came out of Bunny building up to this moment with those Marines coming in from the natural, where the Stalkers, instead of focusing on that, instead of focusing on the Widow mines, they had to deal with these Marines. It gave time for the mines to burrow, and that's what created the opportunity for Bunny to get this big advantage, despite the fact that StarDust had a pretty good opening.
And once more, you know, StarDust's life would have been a lot easier if he would have met those Marines a little, you know, further out on the map. That's just, he had the observer, he saw it, and I think that was just slightly misplaced by StarDust, and Bunny really capitalizing on that ability. Of course, not being silly as well, not sticking around in the natural. He's like, nope, running into the main base, gonna get as many probes as I can, and well, he got more than he ever could have dreamed of, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny comes into this series, a lot of people really standing behind him as he's mostly thinking about, you know, as far as scary Protoss is what we even heard on the analysis desk, Lilbo. Really, StarDust, we're starting to see where a couple of those holes are, man. He tried to prepare, but it wasn't quite enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we are loaded in to game number 2. We're playing this one out on Echo, and we can see our 1-0 up Terran in the Northwest, representing Team Liquid. He's Bunny!
On the right bottom side of the map, currently trailing 0-1 in this best of 5 quarterfinal. Give it up for StarDust. I am a little bit worried right now for Nate, really, because when you start a series like that and you feel like you're starting it off so well, even though those were minor pickups, there was more information, that was more damage than you can normally dream of early on. Also the probe that he was hiding, you know, drop the Nexus as soon as possible. There are 3-4 things going your way and you're like, nice, I'm catching some momentum into this series. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So far my build is working out flawlessly, and then it's just boom, one with a mine that shatters your dreams. It's gonna shake you up a little, man. I'm very curious to see how StarDust bounces back in game number 2, because he's not gonna get a start that was as awesome as in game number 1.
I mean, you know, bouncing back, as we talk about StarDust, right? Bouncing back, this is his first season that he's been playing for WCS this year. But when we look at, you know, his road to get here in the round of 16, no Terrans in that group. You look at, like, what was he preparing for? Protoss versus Zerg. He's pretty much always been good in that matchup, and we saw him sweep his way out of the group through PvZ. But now coming in against the Terran, a matchup where he's been weak, that map 1 loss, like you said, you know, it really, like, how confident can you be going into this series against Bunny, who's pretty much always been good in TvP?
Yeah, you never know. Of course, yesterday when they were doing the interview, he was shaking up a little. He's like, no, I don't want to play Bunny. But it could be a little bit of show as well. You know, sometimes you want to give your opponent some false confidence, and then you come out here, guns blazing, you take a 1-0, you take a 2-0 with maybe some crazy builds. And then suddenly the Terran is like, oh man, this dirty Protoss, you know, pretending he's afraid. But he was ready all along.
I think that has some merit to it, considering he did tear a piece of paper with his name on it in half prior to the game starting.
Exactly. Suddenly, perhaps a little more confidence. We'll see. We'll see how game number 2 plays out. Echo is pretty similar to Coda. This is something we've gone over multiple times. I would say it's slightly better for Protoss when it comes to securing your third base, you know, let's say between the 9:30 and 12-minute mark in this game. I'd say Echo's a little bit better than Coda just because you can knock down those cooling towers and whatnot. But in all honesty, last game, StarDust showed no signs of a third base because he was just so far behind after the very initial harass that he even scouted.
Yeah, he was put very far behind in that series. And of course, we have a quick update for you guys just watching this stream. Lilbo has taken the first map against Marine Lord in their best of 5. Pretty aggressive play, apparently, to start that series off.
Yep, the two Frenchies duking it out on the B stream. I'm a little bit sad I'm not able to watch that one right now, Nate. I know if I was at home, I'd have both streams open because I'm very curious about that series.
Yeah, there's a lot of awesome games happening, of course, today, and we have a long way to go as Bunny gets this Reaper inside the main base. He's looking for any early tech. He wants to see where the buildings are being placed, anything that he can look for that he might have to worry about a couple minutes down the line. So far, the rest of his build preparation is very similar to that of the last game. Going for this quick factory, he's very confident with this. And for the most part, this style, very popular amongst Terran players all over the world.
StarDust is switching it up a little bit. This time his Nexus was, let's say, 10-15 seconds quicker. Spent a little bit more chrono boost on probes, delayed his Stalker a little bit, and he's keeping the Mothership Core at home. His Reaper is trying to be annoying, trying to get a kill that it's not supposed to get. So far, StarDust on top of his probe control. I mean, losing a probe here, Nate, that's when you get very, very upset with yourself as a Protoss player.
Yeah.
You may or may not have heard me curse once or twice when that happens.
It's not fun. Well, unless you're the Terran player. That's the dream. But in this scenario, Bunny is still once again building up to the same thing that we saw in the last game, which is going to be that mine drop. Because it delays your stim, it's like, okay, it's nice to have that fast tech, but you got to get the mine shots off. If you don't kill those probes, you're much further behind than in any other build order that you could choose as a Terran to play out the mid-game stage. So Bunny's really trying to set himself up well by keeping the Reaper alive. Seeing that Stalkers are on the map will allow him to say, okay, maybe I can't run those Marines across, depending on how many Stalkers have been made.
I wonder why he's sending a probe across the map in this phase in the game. I find that kind of weird. We see a probe on the left side. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe just some, I want to defend and counter with 3 or 4 gateways immediately.
You know what, Roddy? That sounds like a pretty good move, because that's how he wrecks me. You go for your mine drop, deflect it, and then you have a big counterattack opportunity.
No offense, Nate, but Bunny is perhaps slightly better in defending with that than you are. I know one day you're going to get that, though. Global Elite Terran Natanius, he's coming.
He'll have to be careful, of course, of the possibility of counterattacks, but a lot of Protosses do try that, and Bunny shows up once again. The Photon Overcharge is triggered. There's not as many Marines, so he backs off a bit faster. He moved out a little bit earlier, since he had the Widow Mine there, too, so he's not going to try to force it here.
Nope, he moved out quick. Oh, Bunny actually leaving the medevac at home. He activated his boost, but he never boosted. Or, well, he did boost, but he never moved it across the map. I mean, when you're going very fast, but you're not moving, you're not going very fast. No?
Yeah, that's a bit of an awkward scenario there. The observer sees the medevac now crossing the center position of the map. So Bunny's been building up from this opening to this moment. He has 2 more barracks on the way, but StarDust is already preparing for the gateway counterattack, and there's nothing here yet.
Yeah, the most important thing for StarDust is that he does not allow Bunny to get a bunker up. He never wants to give Bunny that safety of having a bunker. But I mean, Photon Overcharge is not active anymore. This Mothership Core is going to get a lot of damage. Did the Mothership Core go down, Nate? It did go down.
Yeah, he picked up the Mothership Core. So, okay, StarDust pulling back in. He doesn't have any sentries. It's only Stalkers that were built to deal with the medevac drop. So 1 Widow Mine still alive, and there's a ton of Marines here.
I would have really loved if this StarDust had 1 more. Oh, that Widow Mine is going to get a ridiculous shot. Okay, just 2 actually.
Just 2, but the Stalkers are backed up into a corner. They can't fight the Marines by themselves. 1 down, 2 down, 2 Stalkers remaining. Just 1 Stalker left. Pulls back, jumps away from the probes with that medevac, but more aggressive warp in. StarDust is trying to force a close to a base rate as you're going to get for this early in the game.
I do like this actually for StarDust. He's going to take some losses at home, but that is just 5 or 6 unupgraded Marines. He has an observer on the high ground as well. He can snipe that one immediately. There's 1. I mean, he's going to have to warp in 3 Stalkers at home, and then I think he can deal with it.
Isn't it the gas tube? He can only warp in Zealots right now. SCVs are going to be pulled up the line. He's pushed up through. Most of the shields and the Stalkers are gone from the Widow Mine splash. Bunny is actually pushing this attack back of StarDust. The counterattack to Bunny's aggressive build that delayed his later tech is so far holding strong. He has access to the mules from the command center. He can afford to lose workers. StarDust cannot.
Wow, Bunny has completely stabilized now, getting that mine on the high ground as well. And Bunny, just like that, will actually take game number 2 as well. Wow, Nate, what a quick change of events.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny, I think it goes without saying, there's a reason why a lot of people have confidence in him. He comes in here as the player that's been touted as the strongest non-Korean player. Pushing through this series, getting those extra WCS points, trying to get himself in a position where he can actually get to the global finals. I think we're seeing right now, him showing up real good.
I am really quite shocked about how that played out the last 30-40 seconds, because the idea by StarDust was good as long as there's no bunker, and there wasn't any bunker. He had 4 Stalkers at home. I think 5 Stalkers at home is a lot better, because then you can actually one-shot those Marines, but let's not forget about losing that Mothership Core. Yeah. I know it didn't have energy for Photon Overcharge, but if you keep it alive, A, it soaks up damage, B, it pushes out damage, and C, if you tuck it away in the corner, it will eventually get Photon Overcharge.
He was getting closer. He wasn't too far away from another Photon Overcharge, and in this scenario, when you're trying to dance around your base, it's so useful just to have that constant damage coming out of the Nexus, because 8 Marines aren't going to target that down while they're getting hit by the Nexus and a few Stalkers. And I mean, the defense of this counterattack was just perfect.
Yep. I mean, I think StarDust at a certain point, he got a little bit too sloppy. Obviously, he was paying attention to everything that was going on at home. There were multiple times he was attack moving with the probes, but all the Marines were actually lined up behind the mineral line, and he just couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when the Marines are choked up this nicely and that Widow Mine is still there, StarDust has no choice but to run away. And the counterattack, you can see Bunny, yes, he is in fact much better at holding these types of counterattacks than me, Ronnie.
I mean, and once again, Nate, you'll get that one day. Bunny taking a commanding 2-0 lead right now, barely 20 minutes into this series. Just 1 map win away from, I would even say, writing WCS history, Nate, making it to 2 WCS semifinals back-to-back. Normally, that's Paul doing it. There's never been a non-Korean that has achieved what Bunny is right now almost to achieve.
Yeah, I think this is a very clear showing of Bunny having a plan, sticking to it, going for very similar strategies in both games, and just reacting because he feels, or especially his pedigree this year so far suggests he is better in this matchup than StarDust, and all he really needs to do is not get caught off guard by anything weird.
It's really crazy as well. Like, it always goes 2 ways, right? You look at it from the pros point of view, and you're like, man, StarDust could have done this better and that better and that better. But obviously, Bunny is so good in executing these kind of builds that he's forcing mistakes upon StarDust. And you really got to compliment Bunny as well for the way he's doing this, because if any other Terran is doing it, there's a good chance he's a lot less successful with it against a player like StarDust, who's obviously capable of dealing with a couple of Marines and Widow Mines under most circumstances. But apparently, when Bunny's doing it, Nate, it's a different ball game.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're loading into map number 3. It's actually match point for this man in the southeast position of Iron Fortress. Give it up for StarDust.
On the right top side of Iron Fortress, we've got our Danish Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is Bunny. once more on the verge of doing what no non-Korean has ever done in WCS, making it to 2 back-to-back semifinals. And let's not forget, the winner of this series will move on to play against either Liu Bao or Marine Lord, which means, Nate, that if Bunny wins this series, we're going to have our first non-Korean in the final since Stefano. 2013 Season 1.
That is pretty awesome, Roddy. It feels so weird to look at a matchup like this when you consider the history of StarDust, the championships that he's accrued over the few years that he's really been playing on a big stage. And he has to win 3 games in a row. He has to win 3 games in a row to come back here. And you consider the way this year so far has gone for him, this would be a devastating defeat. He wasn't able to play in Season 1, and now getting knocked out at this point is going to make it very difficult going into Season 3 to actually get the WCS points he would need to make it to the global finals at the end of the year.
And I think the worst thing about it is this was not even like the previous 2 games. They were not games where he's like, oh, I missed one drop that kind of caught me off guard. It's like, no, he's falling apart in the early stages of the game, making a couple of crucial errors, of course, once again by Bunny executing his build so well, forcing StarDust into those mistakes. But you know, the 4 Stalkers on Echo as well, just having them there against the ramp, he should never do that. You should be running circles with those Stalkers, and he could have run so much further. I know he had a wall up on the south side, but he could have got a couple extra shots off and run all the way in his middle lines, pull probes some better moments. None of these games, they got like, man, this is a really difficult map to secure your third base, and there were 4 medevacs catching him off guard. It's the very early phases, the first Widow Mines, the first Marines. You can't feel too good about your chances right now in this series.
Yeah, and of course we just got to see a pull-up of the Twitter poll that's been going on about who's going to win what match. Game 1 was pretty close. After that last game, it's still pretty heavily in Bunny's favor. I think a lot of people are looking at this series and saying, wow, this guy's actually quite good, Roddy.
So you're telling me people are betting on the guy that's up 2-0 in a best of 5, Nate?
Something like that.
Shocker.
Well, Bunny has, with this Reaper that he's sending out, is actually going to run straight over to StarDust space. He checked the top left position with his SCV, so 50% chance. And now he comes in. He'll be able to see that StarDust is gone for a quick Nexus. He's not actually rushed out his second gas either, so he won't have to worry about any really fast crazy play, maybe off 2 bases, sure, but it's not the kind of thing where he could be caught off guard super fast.
Liu Bao has just taken a 2-0 lead in the other quarterfinal, so even though it's all Terran over here, Nate, it's all Protoss on the B stream currently, where Liu Bao takes a 2-0 lead over his buddy, his teammate.
And I think that gets things even more interesting, considering that Bunny's stating he'd much rather less play Liu Bao than StarDust.
Oh, and we're not there yet. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We have seen multiple 2-3 comebacks in the past. It's always unlikely. Nobody ever predicts it, but it's not like it has never happened before. When you're talking about trios in a best of 7, that's where things get really dicey. But, you know, winning 3 games in a row, as soon as you catch some momentum. I mean, if you're StarDust right now, I'm trying to imagine, right, if I'm Protoss, what am I looking for? Am I going to do something completely different in game number 3? So far, it kind of looks like it. He's dropping a much quicker Twilight. It's hard to say though, like going aggressive with Blink Stalkers against these type of openings is not bad. Bunny is switching things up by the way over here. He's getting Hellions. Iron Fortress, not a bad map for it, I'd say.
No, the thing is, you don't have the ramps leading into the natural, so you can see where you're going more easily. You don't have to have high ground vision, but also just to consider that he's done the same thing in the first 2 games. And StarDust maybe thinking to himself, it's like, okay, well, possible that I just deal with the same thing. So he's rushing out this fast blink. Now the Hellions that he's pushed out could just try to run by with this Reaper. We've actually seen a couple Terrans do this occasionally and just try to snipe a few probes, get some sort of early advantage, but also double as a scouting tool.
I would say if you can get 4 probes with these 2 Hellions, and there's a good chance because you don't really want to use Photon Overcharge for it, but at the same so what are you doing, StarDust?
He managed to get 2 so far. Okay, the
that's
probes
very
actually,
well done.
Yeah, they caught the Hellions up quite nice. A few of them were very low on hit points, but he does clear that out. I also think it's important to note that StarDust hasn't opened with sentries at all in this series, so I can see where the Hellions also get some utility in being able to just run by at the start.
Yeah, I don't mind the Stalker opening though, Nate. I really do feel that you can deal very well with these Widow Mines, with these Marines, if you open up with Stalkers. It just all comes down to positioning. It comes down to when you use Photon Overcharge and when you start getting the first hits off. Early game PvT, I would almost say every single Stalker volley counts so much. And just a couple of times I feel StarDust has missed opportunities. Here comes the medevac once again with 2 Widow Mines. The robotics facility is not even ready yet, Nate.
That's right. The first observer will just about be starting mine burrows. Well. Okay, not going to get too much in that main base, or excuse me, the natural. The one in the main does burrow, but all picked up at the last second. Very close.
Yeah, I do love that Bunny tried to drop 2 mines in 2 different bases instead of just dropping both in natural, because then they shoot, and then you can just wait as a Protoss. This time time, he went for gold and he forced StarDust at least to use Photon Overcharge. And you know, even though the first wave is not very successful, we all know there's going to be wave 2 of this kind of drops and sometimes even wave 3.
That's right. We have the rest of the follow-up coming in from both players. StarDust going to go double forge, so he's battening down the hatches, and I think knowing that it was a factory opening because of the Hellions and the mine drop, he should be able to recognize that that stim pack is going to be very late. So if he wants to play for those, you know, those greedier upgrades, or maybe not try for a fast third, he can get away with that for at least the time being.
Yeah, this is a kind of a difficult map anyway for Protoss to secure your third bases because there's a lot of space on the left side of where you would normally take your third base. That is just very hard to copy. If you want to have vision everywhere, you're going to need 4 or 5 observers. And right now he just doesn't want to waste time on that. He does have a probe on the north side of the map, but it's extremely unlikely he wants to be very aggressive with this because he just warped in 2 forges, and that is something that normally you want to sing out this game a little bit. There is always potential for either a 1-1 or maybe even a 2-2 timing, but I'm not 100% sure if that's where you want to go with this game.
I'm getting a third base feeling from StarDust because he's built more workers than he needs for 2.
Yep.
And I guess that really goes to show that the way StarDust has been playing his Protoss versus Terran, he actually thinks, you know, he's like, okay, if I can just make it to the later stages of the game, I have the, you know, the gumption, the decision-making skills to last out and win the big fights, because he cannot afford to take any risks. You know, potentially his WCS career for the year on the line, but also the whole series is on this map right now.
I do kind of feel what StarDust maybe wants to do, Nate, is just get 3 or 4 Colossus out, then get a very strong 2-2 army. He will indeed go up to 3 bases because he has 57 workers, but you don't necessarily have to also drop 10 extra gates and go for Templar Archives and just play extremely passive. He could just barely saturate that third base with the amount of probes that he has, and as soon as he feels his army is strong enough, then just push and hope to make the difference with, you know, his well-upgraded Blink Stalkers against an army that could potentially be quite low on Vikings.
Yeah. There's a lot of options for how he can try to handle this. He's actually getting some cannons as well to make sure that he can soften himself up against any other drop plays that may come.
I don't like this observer over here. Perhaps worry. Okay, this one is a lot better. I feel like the other one, he has to send it out on the north side. You really want to get an observer on patrol. Scanner's going to go down. But StarDust knows his army is there. You can look at it. This is 11 minutes into the game. This is that phase where instead of going from 3 medevacs, sometimes Terran suddenly they fly around with 5 medevacs, and there's always that potential of a double drop into your main base. That's why StarDust kept the majority of his forces in his main, not panicking. I mean, it's safe to say that in none of the games so far, at the 11-minute mark, things have gone as well as they currently go for StarDust.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He hasn't taken anywhere close to the amount of damage as he's done in the first 2 maps. Important things to note, still not a lot of sentries as this Zealot harass gets cleared out. By not building sentries, like StarDust doesn't have that ability to force field away. If he takes a bad fight, the Bio will be able to chase very easily.
Is it safe to say that Bunny is misreading this maybe a tiny bit, as I feel he's going super early into Viking production, and I kind of feel that he's anticipating for a 2-base all-in from StarDust, which is not the case. If we take a look at Bunny's vision, I don't think Bunny knows there are 2 forges in the back of StarDust's base, correct? I don't think Bunny has ever seen that.
I mean, Bunny was watching both third bases. He didn't have vision of the forges.
No, he has never seen the forges.
You are correct in that, Roddy. But the scan sees the third Nexus drop as this army pushes out. And since Bunny got an armory and a second engineering bay, he's thinking about the longer game too. This is a push that StarDust could try to force, but we can already see he's actually moving everything back. He just wants to poke the front. Neither of these players willing to put all their chips in yet, although Bunny, of course, being up 2-0 in this series, has a little bit more leeway.
There's definitely a chance that if StarDust wouldn't have spotted the amount of Vikings that Bunny had there, that he would have tried to be slightly more aggressive. Wouldn't necessarily call it an all-in, but just see, you know, just test the waters a little bit. Maybe you can get a couple force fields off, get a couple bio units for free. But since he's like, he has an observer there, he's like, well, that's quite a few Vikings already. Let's not do anything stupid over here. I don't have that many force fields, so if I move out, you know, there's a good chance I'm committing with my Colossus, and if I end up losing 2 or 3 Colossus over here, well, that's going to be curtains. That's it. I'm done with WCS. So he goes back. He's playing it safe. He is dropping the Templar Archives now, Nate. Do you think there is a chance Bunny's producing 5-6 more Vikings and he's going to pull the boys?
I think there's that opportunity usually opens up with the +2 attack finishing in this scenario, but I don't think that Bunny don't think Bunny needs to chance it, right? You have a Protoss player that because he went double forge, the Zealots are going to be, they're going to slaughter SCVs. You know, SCV pulls are most effective prior to those upgrades because they can soak up a bit more damage, but they can also actually hurt those units. You know, SCVs don't get attack upgrades. So as the game goes longer, it just becomes worse and worse to pull workers.
Totally agree, but at the other end, aren't you feeling that maybe it could get a little bit intimidating playing against a Protoss that has Colossus, Double Forge, and Storm?
The only thing about this that does really trouble me when you mention that is that there's no gases on the third base and nor Ghost Academy. So Bunny is basically playing with an army that will eradicate the Colossi instantly because of the Viking count.
I think he's going to try to pull the boys. There we go, Nate.
Okay.
The boys are on the way.
All right, this is going to be really tricky, man. There are Archons being morphed into. Those deal quite well with this. Bunny, you know what? Up 2-0. Perhaps this is, you know, a good reason why he'd be willing to risk this, but it's going to be very, very tricky to see it work. There's not the capability for Storm.
The medevac count is like non-existent, by the way. I think that's worth mentioning as well. We've got 3 medevacs. There is a good chance that those will get picked off quite quickly. StarDust is putting himself in a little bit of an awkward angle with the amount of Zealots he has. Here we go. Could Bunny close this one out, or are we going to see game 4?
I mean, the SCV's coming in now. The Vikings focus down 1 Colossus. 2 Colossus get picked up. The Bile still pushing through. He's actually cleaned up the Zealots with that +2 attack. So only 2 the Colossi remain with a handful of Stalkers. All the Colossi get picked up. Bunny's actually got the spread. He's actually made it work pre-storm. And he's going to storm it. There's nothing left. Bunny's got this game in the bag. The SCV, excuse me, the probes are being pulled to fight against the SCV. You see the smile on his face. He knows he's going to the semifinals as the Vikings land in StarDust. It's natural. Nothing left to stop this Terran army. GG. Bunny wins 3-0 over StarDust.
What a performance by our Danish Terran, being the first non-Korean ever to make it to 2 back-to-back semifinals in WCS Premier League. I mean, Nate, 3-0. It was all Bunny. Started off the very first 2 minutes. I felt like we're the roughest 2 minutes in the series, but after that, he played phenomenal.
Absolutely amazing play from Bunny. And let's hear what the man himself has to say on the stage with Chobra.
And Bunny does it, goes on to yet another semifinal here at the season finals of the Premier League. Bunny, this also means that you secure, for now at least, going into that top 16 in the global rankings. How do you feel?
It feels so good to make 2 round of 4s in a row. I think consistency is really important when you're a pro, so it's really nice to see that I can do it 2 times in a row.
Awesome. Yeah, 2 times in a row. It's not an easy feat, like you said, and to get there into the semifinals. Now, last season, you got defeated, of course, by the champion who ended up winning the whole thing. But this season, now you go forward. You're going to face either Little Bao or Marine Lore. How do you feel about that matchup coming up?
It's going to be pretty hard. I feel like both of those are really, really good at the moment, both in practice and now in the tournament. I'd probably rather face Marine Lord because I haven't been doing so well against Lil Bo in practice, to be honest, but I'll think of something if he does win.
All right, sounds good. Now, before we move on, I think there's one moment in the very beginning of this match that we all kind of want to recount if you were rooting for Bunny, and that's in map 1. You went in with those 2 mines, and then one just goes, boom! Here we go, it's on screen. 11 pros get wiped out. Did you feel a rush in that moment? I mean, that was pretty monumental.
Yeah, that's always great in TvP. That's when you know you won the game. Like, often on ladder, when this happens to Protoss players, they just leave the game instantly because it's just so hard for them to play from there. So after that mine hit, I was pretty sure I would win, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Bunny, congratulations. You're moving on to the semifinals here in the Season 2 finals of the WCS Premier League.
2 top 4 finishes, at least, in a row for Liquid Bunny. He is now ranked 16th within the World Championship Series rankings, and right now has a chance, of course, if BlizzCon was tomorrow, to play at the global finals. A big moment here. Not over yet, Jeff, I know, but
He's
it's
tied for 16th.
Yeah,
So-
then he'd have to play a playoff with SOS,
Yes.
wouldn't he? Like Nanuel played Revival in 2013. But
Yeah.
a massive win there, and what a way to win it, Pig.
That was so commanding, so clean. That's going to be a confidence booster for Bunny. I was actually just blown away. The first game, I thought, oh, that happens sometimes. You get that really beautiful Widow Mine attack. But then the next game, the same sort of thing, just clean, crisp execution. And that final game, overpowering with such good macro. I think Bunny's looking really good going into the semifinals.
it's a bit odd. It's not too often that you see such a dominant performance on a stage like this, and it's a non-Korean dishing it out to a Korean. I know a lot of people don't necessarily super like that storyline, but it is actually something that rarely happens, and it's been like Stefano since we've seen this. So it's kind of cool that Bunny is rising up and doing that right now, and it's going to be a gut check moment. We talked about this with StarDust, or about StarDust rather. He's in trouble. He moved all the way over here for WCS. He's going to have to scramble.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do now coming into Season 3. He's going to have to start traveling to these events, these global events across the world.
All of them.
All of them, to make sure he can at least attempt to run at the global finals. It would be a massive failure if he wasn't having acquired a visa to do that very thing. Another point here as well. For the first time since 2013, Season 1 of the World Championship Series, where Stefano went to the final against MVP, we have another European that makes it to the grand finals. A big moment, Pig.
It really is, of course. Bunny will be going up against the winner of Marine Lord and Lilbo, so a definite foreigner in the finals. It's huge. It's awesome, and I think that's what the World Championship Series this year is all about. It's about letting these newcomers like Lilbo rise up, letting those guys like Bunny finally prove they can get on top, and we are seeing the benefits of that now.
Yeah, Bunny, first player through to the semifinals. Lilbo and Marine Lord is currently playing out on the second stream. And I've got a little bit of news for you in here. I've got a little bit of news for you at home as well. Lilbo just 3-0'd Marine Lord as well and continues his domination at this tournament. He hasn't dropped a single map.
Not a single one.
Super impressive, super impressive. And he will play Bunny in the first semi-final. Another announcement that I will make is that currently planned is Jaedong and Hydra on the main stage and Pult Tilo on the second stage. Nah, not anymore. Both games are going to be played on the main stage, so everyone at home, everyone in the crowd, first up is going to be Jaedong versus Hydra, and straight after we will play Pult versus Tilo on the mainstream. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we return, the Tyrant takes on the Season 1 finalists.